And now to introduce our speaker for this session. Jeff Baines is an entrepreneur in healthcare revenue cycle management, automation, and innovation. He has pioneered partially and fully autonomous solutions that deliver meaningful productivity and quality improvements. Over the past 20 years, he has led projects that delivered over $1 billion in client benefits and brought 8 software solutions to market. He is currently the co-founder and CEO of Longtail, using generative AI to change paradigms for utilization management and clinical denials. Jeff?
Wait, wait till the end to clap. Find out if I got anything good to say. All right. Anybody been burned by AI buzzword? Uh, throw up a polarizing figure to get everybody awake here. Elon Musk started promising that we would all be self-driving a really long time ago. And every year he doubles down on how next year no one's going to be driving anymore. It just hasn't happened. In reality, almost every car any of us drive has accident avoidance, the side mirror light, features that were not available if we didn't start going down this road. And driving is significantly safer today than it was. When we eventually do get to most of us being in self-driving cars, it will be significantly more safe. Probably 40,000 lives a year will be saved, and all this good stuff. So my point here is these things are moving fast. It is coming. We're past the point of saying AI is not coming. We're past that point. It is, in fact, coming. And there are all sorts of benefits that you can harvest today that you could not harvest 10 years ago, but you should have some healthy skepticism. For the record, I drive a 1995 Ford Mustang that does not self-park. Why you should listen to me? I've been doing software for a long time. I've been around RCM for a long time. I have watched startups come and go. Some successes, many failures. I have had successes, I have had failures, and I will try to teach you a few things that I know. In 60 minutes, I promise everybody will be more fluent in talking about AI. You will be more equipped to make better decisions, and hopefully you'll have confidence. Hopefully you will be prepared to go back to work on Monday doing a few things differently than you're doing today. We'll go through some basics, set a foundation. I want to do some frameworks. I'll talk about task automation versus process automation and hopefully explain why some projects have turned out to be less successful than the original plan was. Hopefully give you some tools to equip you not to have those same kind of outcomes. We'll, of course, use some use cases along the way. And it's not a provider conference, so we don't talk about payers and what they're. So we'll do some of those examples at the end. My promise, you will be better equipped to talk about AI when we're done. You will be a better decision maker. And hopefully you'll start doing something different on Monday than you were yesterday. All right. All of the buzzwords. We'll talk about language models. We'll talk about AI agents. Loosely defined terms. People use these words and don't know what they're saying. Hopefully I will make that more clear. But let's do some foundation setting first. Anyone want to take a stab when we started doing predictive analytics? Any guesses? 1990s? 80s? It was the 1960s. People started using the term artificial intelligence in the 1960s because the math has actually been available for a few hundred years. Computers started being available to start actually doing some of the math. And now we finally have enough memory and enough data that we can do these things. Predictive analytics. A predictive model is just simply taking a bunch of data that you've collected and running statistical analysis on that data. You use that to create a model. And what you can do with that is take a new example and take the data around the new example, run it through your model, and that gives you a prediction of what will happen with that case. My volume's more up and down. That's my head. Okay. Is that all right? Okay. Okay. Predictive analytics is just simply taking history, summarizing the history, take a new case today, Use your history to make a prediction about it. That is a predictive model. You do this in your daily life intuitively all of the time. It's a good way to live. It's a good way to run a business. It's a good way to operate. It is not something new. Anybody willing to take a risk here? What's the difference between a predictive model and machine learning? Any takers? We're in Seattle. We're the home of Microsoft and Amazon. Not bad. Uh, I'll give you a sticker later. For boldness, machine learning is predictive modeling with one more thing. The one more thing is a feedback mechanism. So you have a model, you've built this model off of your past, and you've started to take a new example and make a prediction about it. Record the prediction about the new case, do something different than you're used to do, and observe, do you get a better outcome or a worse outcome? Every time you get a better outcome, that was a good change. Every time you get a bad outcome, a negative change. When you are doom scrolling on Instagram and looking through your reels, you are giving, there's a model. It knows how old you are. It knows your shopping habits and those kinds of things because it's tracking all that you do. And it gives you a video that it thinks you will like. And if you stay there, it's the same as giving Facebook a thumbs up. You're telling it you liked it, and you will get more of that. So if you watch cat videos and you ever wondered why you keep getting more cat videos, it's because you're watching cat videos. It's just giving you are giving it the positive feedback that it wanted. This is practical lesson number one. You want to know what your kids are doing on their phones? Just go on their Instagram and look at like 5 videos. If it's all cats, you're good. If it's car accidents and thieves and things blowing up, you should have a few conversations because that's what they're doing. Okay, predictive model. You just take some past, you make a prediction. Maybe we're going to do something different in this account. Add a feedback loop, and you have machine learning. Every time you introduce some small change and it gives you something you like, thumbs up. We want more of that. Every time it gives you something, an outcome you don't like, thumbs down, you get less of that. Okay. Can you define robotic process automation? It's a lot like your machine learning example from before. Free t-shirt for boldness. We will talk about payers when we get there, but Shanae, his t-shirt. Okay. Yes. 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 Robotic process automation is teaching a computer program to mimic the keystrokes and mouse clicks that a human would do. You're programming it to behave like a human. This is where robots came from. There isn't actually a robot doing this. It's just controlling your mouse and keyboard, essentially. Is robotic process automation AI? No? I don't know. Sorry. I don't know. People call it AI. The reason they call it AI, your human eye is looking for things on the screen and you're reading words and you're looking at the images and you're contextualizing it and making decisions based on that. The way the computer does it, they call it computer vision. I mean, it's image recognition and character recognition in a lot of cases. The best cases are it's just reading the text from the HTML, like it's reading a web page, and it actually definitively knows what those words are and it's interacting with it. A lot of times, to get a bot to do what you want it to do, you've got to use an image recognition technique or a character recognition technique. Those are based on these predictive models. They've been trained with machine learning, and that is why, what, 8 years ago, people started calling RPA artificial intelligence. That's why people refer to it as AI. To me, um, I don't draw the line. I don't know where to draw the line. Um, Anyone want to define artificial intelligence since we're here? It's 2 words. It's artificial intelligence. It is mimicking human intelligence with a machine. None of these computers will come to LLMs and agents and stuff. None of these machines know what the words mean. None of these machines are actually making decisions because it's smart. It is using statistical patterns to do these activities. That's why it's artificial. We call it intelligence because it's remarkably mimicking what humans would be. That's as far as I'm willing to take it. Where do you draw the line of what is AI and what's not? I'm happy if you call predictive analytics, machine learning, and RPA artificial intelligence. If you don't want to, then it's on you to define where we've crossed the line and it's actually artificial intelligence. That's why I'm soft drive. Okay. At the bottom, it's less bold. Do not forget about business rules systems. All of this, anytime you use a system, you have to have the ability to move data in and out. An API is just simply a data connection. It's supposed to be standardized. They're not very standardized anymore. Business intelligence is just simply creating a way for you to consume data without having to say, hey, analyst, go get your spreadsheet out, type on these things for a while and answer a question for me. It's giving you the ability to do those things. The reason I put this on the slide is that all of these things are a separate tool. A hammer was designed to do a very specific function, and it's awesome at driving nails. It is not good at turning screws. If you try to use a hammer to put in a screw, it's not going to do what you wanted it to do. And just like a skilled carpenter, if you are skilled at using these tools and you use these tools for the thing they are good at, you should have good outcomes. Unfortunately, sometimes people use the wrong tool for the wrong thing or just simply don't acknowledge the limitations of these tools. So if the contractor shows up only with a hammer, you don't let them start remodeling your kitchen. Likewise, if a vendor or someone from IT or a friend of yours says, I've got this silver bullet magical AI thing and you're never going to have to work again, I would have some serious skepticism. Okay, I'm going to do a deeper dive on LLMs and AI agents. Keep going? All right. All right, LLMs 101. From now on, I'm not going to say large language model, too many syllables. It's an LLM. This is your ChatGPTs and Geminis and Claudes and such. It is extraordinarily complicated to try to describe how these things work, but I think the cleanest way is to just think of it as a really big predictive model. You just take millions of text documents, every New York Times article ever written, every tweet ever published, every Facebook post. You take all of the words and you use the same math as the predictive modeling to build a model. When somebody says llama has 7 billion parameters, what they're talking about is there's 7 billion different ways the words are connected to each other. It's a model of human language. It does not know what any of the words mean. It knows the patterns of how words flow together. And so if you build one of these models, what you can do is you give it a prompt and you get a completion or a response from the prompt. We're going to do a really simple one, audience participation here. This is not good enough to get a teacher. If I give you the prompt, Jeff's eyes are, the right response is blue is good. Any others? Open. Okay. You probably are thinking, when people talk about eyes, it's usually open or closed or a color. Probably color is the most. This is how language models work. The best prediction is if all you have to go off of Jeff's eyes are, you probably going to go with blue or open or something like that. But if I gave you much more context about how I just came from the doctor's office, the eye doctor, and I had my eyes dilated, now you might say Jeff's eyes are nearsighted or irritated or red or whatever. But the point here is more context gives you the ability to make a better prediction. This is how ChatGPT works. It doesn't know when you say ChatGPT, give me dad jokes about fishing. It doesn't know that much about fishing, doesn't know that much about dad jokes, but it recognizes a pattern. And the more context you give it, the better the dad jokes will be. If you say, do it in the voice of Jeff Means, you'll probably get really good dad jokes. But if you, I don't know, Danielle Caruso, you'll probably not get as good of dad jokes. Okay, so the key takeaway here is you feed it a prompt. The more context you give, the better the response is going to do. I'm gonna have to make these a little bit darker for the next time, but if you ask a question, you'll get an answer. Uh, if you say, "Hey, I have these ingredients, I want to make a new recipe," you can actually get a recipe. If you take a bunch of medical record data and put it into a system, you can ask for a clinical summary, and it does a remarkably good job. If you take that and give it more context, like you add policy documentation or academic research or something like that, you'll get much more interesting and more complete and more precise types of information. This is the key. This is the unlock. People have started to use AI a lot more lately. And most of the time, when someone says AI today, this is what they're talking about: the use of language models, the unlock. What we can do starting in 2023 that we could not do before is we could interact with words. RPA is great at clicks, keystrokes, images, those types of things. Not good with words. Even NLP, the natural language processing, which nobody says that anymore. In the last like 2 years, nobody's saying that anymore. It had its own limitation. All right. It doesn't mean what it used to anymore. Uh, and LLMs are 1,000 times more capable, and they get better every week. If you've raise your hand if you use ChatGPT or Gemini or something on a daily basis. Awesome. I did this actually with this group about 6 months ago, and it was like half of the room. I did it a year ago with the Oregon group, and it was like 15 or 20%. If you're not using this, you are behind. The train has left the station. If you've never done it and you just find me in the hall after, I'll get you started. You need to be using this. You should be saving yourself at least 30 minutes a day by using these tools. You should be getting smarter on the things that you aren't smart about on a daily basis by using Grok or Gemini or Claude or whichever one you want to use. It doesn't matter which one you use. Some are better than others. It's another tool. It's good at what it was created for. It's not good at the things it wasn't. Okay. Uh, this one is harder. Anyone want to take a stab at defining an AI agent? I'm nervous about trying to define an AI agent. I didn't expect to get something at all. Okay. I will say that an AI agent is still a very similar computer program. You give it the capabilities of LLMs, you give it a little bit of structure, you give it some tools. I'll probably tools a little bit more. And you give it some level of permission to make its own decisions. This is very nice. Is Microsoft Copilot an agent? When people say yes, I don't think so. Is our long tails software offerings agents? I would argue yes. It's traditional software that uses these techniques. I made a continuum here. I made it really light. The co-pilots and using a Claude or something like that and giving instructions. You can ask Claude. I did not make these slides, by the way. Claude made these slides for me. I did not tell Claude about the lights might be really bright, and so the gray may not show up awesome. I will add that to my context window for Claude. But I would call that work an agent because I gave it the ability. I gave it a bunch of context. I told it my script, the things I want to say, and asked it to draw us pictures. And it did a pretty good job. I moved things around. It didn't spread it out kind of the way that I wanted to. So I did a little bit of uh, tweaking. I didn't really change the words. I talked with it to get it to use the words that I wanted it to use. And it's pretty good. I'm happy with this. If you saw my presentation 6 or 12 months ago, this is a nice upgrade. So I would call that an agent. Here's the point on the agents is that uh, you can design a workflow. Let me compare this to a bot with RPA. RPA, you have to say step one, step two, step three, step. You can make decision trees and stuff like that, but you have to. That's called deterministic. When you give it a specific path, I want you to do these steps. The difference with an agent is an agent is equipped with LLMs. So it can do text processing. You can describe what you want. So you say, my goal is to make this PowerPoint slide, or my goal is to appeal this claim that got denied. You give it a goal, and then you equip it with these tools. When I made this PowerPoint slide, I equipped it with a Microsoft Office connector. I equipped it with a bunch of context. And Claude has those tools to interact, and it created the slide for me. My observe, decide, act. There are limitations to the decision, and there's limitations to the act. And so when you create these programs, you can give in the instructions in the context window, you can say the decisions you should say. These are the decisions you are allowed to make, and these are the decisions you are not allowed. On the right side with the what it can use, these are what I mean by tools. It does depend on what platforms we're using, but if you're using like a Claude or an OpenAI ChatGPT, it has access to be able to pull files from your computer. Maybe you've embedded something in your Chrome so that you can uh, interact with web pages directly that way. Most of these have plugins where you can connect to a fax. So if you wanted to build an agent that would fax in itemized statements when you get a denial burst, do those types of things. The company in the back that does robocalls. So you can equip it with dialing. You can equip it with text to voice, voice back to text, those kinds of things. It's awesome. It's totally awesome. Didn't put the word anywhere on my slides. No one's heard of hallucinations. We don't. It doesn't come up as often as it did a year ago. It doesn't come up nearly as often. It came up every time I would talk about AI. Oh, hallucination. Why? I'll define it first. Hallucination is when the completion. You gave it a prompt. You asked it. You gave it a bunch of content. You gave it a prompt, and then you asked for the response. It's when the completion is something completely unexpected. Why does it happen? Because these are inherently machine-learning systems. They are inherently designed to make small changes because it wants the thumbs up and it wants the thumbs down. And so you will periodically get hallucinations. Why do we get, this is a softball. Somebody's got to try to answer it. Why do we get fewer hallucinations in 26 than we did in 25? It's a machine learning system. It has been used hundreds of millions of times, and the models are getting better and better. It also is true that the software companies building these things are giving more constraints and more context behind the scenes to try to prevent those things from happening. The reason I bring up hallucinations here is agents tend to make occasional errors. Hallucinations is typically how we describe what those errors are. And it's something like once every 25th time or once every 50th time you get a curveball. And so I'll give my HIPAA caution now because you have to do that in these. Uh, if you are moving HIPAA data, you should be cautious on how you use LLMs and how you use agents. Make sure you are following the guidelines of your organization. You I'll just say it straight up. Nobody should be taking medical record data and copying it from Epic or Oracle or something and pasting it into ChatGPT. Do not do that. Uh, if you have an enterprise license to these systems and you're under the BAA and you are walled off from their training modules, then you can do these things. Make sure you are logged in with your corporate logo. Make sure you've gotten your briefing from your IT people so that you stay in compliance. Um, I say this thing about hallucinations and whatnot because AI agents, they do have an error rate. And so you have to put guardrails on where data moves, what access you give these systems to your data, and you have to put it controls so that if something goes wrong, you just stop it and reverse it. All right. Uh, those are the tools. Let me pause for a second. Give time for questions. We'll pass the mic around if you had. We'll keep going. Okay. All right. Those are the tools. Let's go. Let's try to get a little bit more practical. How can we use these tools? I'm going to give you this framework. There's a thing that is task automation, and there's a thing that is process automation. It's exactly what it sounds like. Are you focused on simply getting a machine to do a task for you? I have a nail, and I want the hammer to put the nail in for me. And I got this gee whiz automatic hammer thing, and so I don't have to hit those nails anymore. That is task automation. You already raised your hands. Pretty much everybody raised your hands. You are doing this today. When you have a question, you're going to Gemini and asking your question. When you want to brainstorm, you're going to your co-pilot and help me put this presentation together because I'm talking about AI this afternoon. That is task automation. What do you get from it? You get higher productivity. I used to spend 10 minutes to nail this hammer because I had to hit it 100 times because I just don't have that skill. Now I have this automatic hammer, boom, the pneumatic, and it goes and it's set perfectly every time. I used in my analogy before I talked about skill. There are things you can do like the pneumatic hammer. You can set the depth for the type of wood you're using, right? So there's skill to using these tools, and the quality of your task automation is dependent on using the right tool and the skill of configuring that. Okay, process automation is something different. This is the source of people's frustration. Our IT department created a new program. We rolled it out and we didn't get the outcomes that we wanted. We hired this vendor to do this thing, to build this thing for us. We rolled it out, but we didn't get the return on investment that we wanted. This is typically conversation around process automation. I wanted to automate all these phone calls and it didn't go right. I wanted to take all of my, I used the example, my itemized statements, and I wanted to have a bot submit the itemized statements. I wanted to take my work queue of authorizations to verify and give a bot to go check if they were approved or not. This is process automation. It can be fully autonomous, as in there's a queue someplace and there's a machine working behind the scenes, and you just pick up the reports in the morning to see how it went. Or it could be human in the loop, which means you haven't given the system the ability to do all of the steps automated, but you have stopped it so that a human approves an action before it happens. My comments around hallucinations and protection of PHI and whatnot, this is what I mean. If you're using LLMs, let's just say, for example, to draft a care plan or a discharge summary, before you actually submit that to the insurance company or before you actually print it to give it to the patient, the nurse should probably read the discharge plan before printing it. That is human in the loop workflows. The outcome that you're looking for here is if you are doing task automation, you just want to go higher productivity. If you are doing process automation, Yes, you are aiming for higher productivity, but on a different scale. You are trying to change the way that the work happens holistic. All right. Someday, I aspire to be famous for creating a term that other people use. And I've been using automation gain on a slide to like 2 years, and it's only like people that work inside my company that say it. So please, like, humor me and go back to work on Monday and use the term automation gain, or like hashtag me someplace cool, so someday I can write a book or something. Uh, Here's what I mean by automation gain. I want to frame it in labor cost. It is the amount of money that you save by automating the task. It is the net savings. If you spend, if you have a dozen engineers build you a bot and it costs you $250,000 to build the bot, and then you save $100,000 of labor, that was a bad decision. You did not save 100,000. You wasted 150,000. So I put the word net, the term net in there to mean it is the cost of using the automation subtracted from the actual save. I live in the world of revenue cycle management. I acknowledge that most revenue cycle departments are understaffed. And if you could just hire a few more people, it would affect your revenue performance significantly. And so I'm not allowed to hire people. So instead, I'll spend the money on this automation and I'll get the return in revenue improvements. Don't do that. Uh, I'm looking for somebody pulling out the computer to say, change my proposal here. This is not the right way to ask the CFO for money. The way to ask the CFO for money is to demonstrate that the unit cost of doing the task went down on a net basis. You you may have a bigger plan. It may, in fact, have the outcome of we spent $1 million and it improved our revenue by 10 million. That may be the result. But if you could just hire 5 more people, that's a different argument. Just go hire the 5. Make that argument to hire the 5 people. If you want, you should not just substitute software for people by itself. If you should hire the people to do the work, hire the people to do the work. If you're just trying to save on the cost of using the people, that's the right way to calculate your ROI on technology products. I was hoping for more people opening their laptops to take a note on that one. Just remember automation gain. Go to LinkedIn, hashtag Jeff means automation gain. Make me famous for that. And then it'll be your reminder to go do that on Monday. Update RFP proposals. Use automation gain as the net savings. Okay. How do you do this? Some cool icons. I may need to tell me later if I need to update these icons. I've been using these for a long time. Here's how to do it. You have to go down to the department you're trying to optimize. For some people, that's bad news. I know. You have to go and observe the work. We're going to talk about process optimization. You need to understand the process as it is today. It might be wrong. The way that it is today might be wrong. Before you start spending money on engineering, you should find out if the process is right. How do you do it? Start by thinking about the tasks in the process. Watch somebody register a patient. Watch a coder code a chart. Watch how they do the work. Pull out the old clipboard. Stopwatch is cool too if you're going to do it. And break it down into the discrete tasks that the person does. Here's how I think about tasks. Are they easy, medium, or hard tasks? Here's a nice way to separate the easy, medium, and hard. If the task is just simply following a recipe, you got this recipe. If I put the same flour, butter, milk, eggs, and chocolate chips, if I follow the recipe the same way every time, I will get exactly the same chocolate chip cookies every time. Step 1 through 5, you repeat it the same way, you will get the same thing. This is a great use case for RPA. It's very predictable. It almost never makes a mistake. And if you capture it And it's just a sequence of steps. It is simple to automate. Easy. That's easy. In reality, a process always has some decisions. Everything in healthcare, there's some decisions. How do we make decisions? Probably half of your staff has Post-it notes on the side of their desk. These are business rules. Maybe it's uh, plan codes. Remember to use this plan code when I verify the insurance and I get these details. Remember, it's the transaction code I'm supposed to be using if this drug gets denied to this reason. Those are business rules. And what your staff are naturally doing is the things that they have to remember so that they can make a decision easy and consistently the same way every time. They write it on a Post-it note, put it on their wall. If you manage a registration area or a billing department, you probably are regularly creating an Excel grid that you update and you send it to your staff. Remember the new plan code that we just implemented. Remember the new standard for the new script for this phone call. This is business rules management. If you can write it down on a piece of paper to put it in a spreadsheet, you can put it in your systems. It's easy to put these in their systems. This is still on the easy side for Caspam. Decisions. I said decisions. They're actually easy. Most decisions are a yes, no type decision. Sometimes it's to choose from these 3 or from these 5. It could be a choose from these 100. Any single decision in any RCM workflow is actually not that complicated. Teaching a machine to make that decision is easy. If it's a text-based decision, LLMs are quite good at distinguishing these things. The reality is it's usually a series of nested decisions. If you remember second grade, those choose your own adventure novels were like 200 pages long. And if you were like me and you just wanted to I got to do 30 books this summer, you go to the choose your own adventure novel because your parents are like, that's a 200-page book. How does he read this in 5 minutes? The way that you do it is a choose your own adventure novel is a series of 8 decisions. And so you're actually only reading 1/8 of the book. Or maybe it's one, whatever, 8 to the 2 to the 8th power is somebody better at math could do that. It's 128 different options. So you're reading 128th of the book. This is the reality of healthcare workflows is that it's not usually just make this one decision. It's usually make a series of decisions and documenting that and teaching that takes time. So we have a substitute. We have a substitute for taking the time to document every single decision that you can make, and it's cognitive decisions. Instead, we hire the smartest people that we can for their judgment. When you onboard new staff and you teach them the role that they're taking on, what you're really trying to do is give them the right frameworks to make judgment. You really don't want to hire someone to schedule patients by simply reading the script. That's not really what you're screening your scheduling candidates for. What you're doing is, can this potential scheduler deal with all the complexity of all the different physician preferences and department preferences and park here and remember to do fast in the morning? Can they really handle the complexity of the decision making that has to happen? And that's the farthest on the complexity scale. Making decisions is actually very complicated. And my one asterisk here is that before 2023, I referenced 23 because that's when we had GPT-3. The previous models were called NLP before GPT-3. And when we crossed GPT-3, it was the first time I was like, oh, wait a minute. We could use this new GPT model, this transformer model, instead of the old statistical models of the NLP to interact with text. It would be really good. So the unlock is that you can now separate, is this a cognitive decision because it's just reading a lot of words and it's actually not a judgment decision? Separate, is it just a text decision or is it a judgment decision? Judgment, very difficult. That's why you will still have staff 10 years from now. Words, You probably won't have staff 10 years from now to make decisions that just simply require reports. Good? I spent a lot of time though. I like the pictures. They good. Okay. I'm gonna do this really quick. We gotta have some consultants in the room. Raise your hand if you're a consultant. Yeah. I had you pegged when I wanted in. Yeah. How many 2x2 matrices do you have on your laptop? Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a good illustration because it simplifies life. It simplifies the continuums. Just put just put the left to right is the same complexity from cool pictures. That's your left to right. Now add frequency, and it gives you a framework for deciding which tasks will you get the best benefit out of automating. Try to stay in the top left. These are the repetitive, uh, easy to train, easy to put bumpers around for things going wrong, easy to recover. You should be trying to automate those things. Do not try to automate the extremely complicated things that you do once a month. Don't do that. Don't start there. You'll spend too much money. You won't get anything back. The reality is the problem with a 2x2 matrix is it's not yes, no's, it's a continuum. And so I want to give you two techniques because everything lives in the yellow today. All the green stuff, it's already automated. You've configured Epic perfectly, and you don't have to do those things. And all the red, you're never going to. So the reality is, how do you go from the yellows to the green? And one way to do this is to try to aggregate. And so those Post-it notes that are on everybody's cubes, you aggregate the decision making about choosing a plan code into a set of business rules and put that into your configuration manager. More plan codes is probably better than fewer plan codes, but it allows you to build a decision process that you can write the step 1 through 5 and codify the business rules as to how to do those things. You can achieve better scale. You're more likely to be able to automate those things. The coolest, what everybody's talking about today, is the top right. And the reality is, if people talk about building agents today, this is what they're talking about, is let's map through the process and let's take the tasks that are cheap or easy to automate and automate those. And let's leave the remaining tasks that are hard to automate or I am not comfortable automating. I want a human to make that decision and put it as the stopping point. That's what we mean by human in the loop. And it's how you can take a 30-minute process and make it a 5-minute process. If you're fully automating, you're taking a 30-minute process and making it a 0-minute process. I'm talking about take a 30-minute process, turn it to 5. Let's do an exercise. This is what I've been working on for the last 3 years. I I know a lot about writing appeals, so I'm comfortable talking about this. So that's why I'm going to use this as the example. And I recognize this is an oversimplification. If you go and watch people do this, you hopefully come up with a similar flow of the tasks that happen. The point isn't necessarily to go map out your appeals process. The point is pick the process you are focusing on, go watch somebody do it, and write down the sequence of steps, the sequence of tasks that people do. And so that's what I did. And I think it looks something like this. And then now put your analytical hat on. And how do you do those tasks? This is why I did the cool icons before, right? What type of a task is it? And this is your gauge for how simple is the task, meaning how expensive will it be to automate that task? And you might make some notes to yourself about, oh, here's where the cognitive decisions are that I don't trust a machine to make that decision. These are your stop points when you're trying to automate. Then you can start layering in like, well, do we have the tools available to us today to automate these things? We've been able to mimic the keystrokes and mouse clicks since the teens, and it's highly predictable, highly accurate. It's limited in what it can do. And a process like this, where you can only automate step 7 and 8, isn't awesome. There's not a lot of automation available. That's where we were in 2018. 2023, the magical GPT-3 comes out. We now can do things like generate a justification. Over the last 3 years, what you can do with LLMs has gotten way better. The amount of context you can give is way better. The amount of training you can do with them is way better. And so now in 2026, you can build an agent that you can equip with the skills and the tools to go do these tasks from end to end. And then you can choose if you want it to be a fully autonomous system or a human in the loop system. You can choose if you want to have guardrails on the types of cases that you want to be a human in the loop and the types of cases that you would allow to be fully autonomous. The point, again, isn't to only talk about clinical appeals. The point is, this is the process for selecting use cases. If you think you have a good use case, don't assume that it's right. Go down and watch the people do the process. Make some decisions about, is that a good process? Put some analysis into how easy or how expensive would it be to automate these? Do we have those tools available to us? Is this something that we should build? Is it something that we should buy? Is it something that we should uh, change the way that we do before we go any further? That's the process. That's the way to unlock the automation gate. I know there's a lot of finance people in here, so I gotta throw a spreadsheet. I don't really intend you to read the spreadsheet, but when you're doing your analysis, build a model. What matters about the model? Hashtag automation gain. Build a model that estimates the time cost or the labor cost or the vendor cost of doing the process, and make your mappings about which elements you're going to save. Incorporate what it costs under the new method and calculate your net improved cost of doing the task. This is how you do automation gain. If you want the example, email me or LinkedIn me and I'll give you the spreadsheet. And you can adapt it for any kind of process. That is the process you need to do if you want to automate things. It might mean doing a vendor RFP. It might mean, if you're academic based, it might mean going over to the school and getting some engineers to go build you something. It might mean that we have actually good R&D budget. We have the ability to develop our own components that we plug into Epic. Any of those is right, is a good answer. It's the process of how you do it is more important than the build versus buy is just what's available to you and what kind of resources you have. It's the process, the selection process, though. The leadership team will have all the slides, so you don't need to write down. But here's some suggested use cases. We talked about task automation versus process automation. Everybody should be doing some level of task automation with the new tools available as well. You should all be doing that. You should be, if you use Zoom, you should have it record and transcribe and summarize. If you use Teams, you can do the same thing. You should be doing this with your meetings. It's not very expensive. If you are giving an otter license to every single employee and you have 1,000 employees, that's not a great way to do it. But at least in the organization, you should have a corporate team or Teams or Zooms that you can do that. And it's a great way to start. And you're building the skills and habits of moving to the new way of doing things. If you are somebody who sends an email to more than a dozen people, if you are not running that email draft through a chat GPT, you should start doing that. If you have not developed your personal profile in ChatGPT, where you say, this is my job function, these are the things that I emphasize, this is my personal style. If you haven't set up your template on your then you need to go do that, because when you ask it to edit your emails, it will be your voice that it is using instead of the generic voice. Again, more context is always better. I give a bunch of use cases. I think the ones on the right, I would say in general, these are the types of use cases that you should be looking for vendors to support you. You should, hopefully, I gave you all enough of the skepticism bug here that you should be very careful in how you select your vendors. You should be very careful in which use cases you select. Not every provider organization to select all of the use cases, but I think these are the ones that the tools available to you today or the vendor landscape. I think these are the ones you should start. Uh, Anyone else got suggestions of other? If you do, hit me afterwards. Help me improve my slide. Uh, there's other vendors here too, so hit me up for that. So. All right. Try to do 2 or 3 minutes. I can't talk to a provider organization without talking about what it would payers to. I mentioned we do a lot of appeals in my company, so I have access to a ton of data. I don't have any contracts with any payers. I've never worked for a payer. I've never gone and seen how they do their work, but I see a ton of data. And I read all of the articles in Becker's and Modern Healthcare and stuff because see the lawsuits and stuff. Blah, blah. So here's what we know the payers are doing. Remember slide 3 or 4 where I talked about the different tools? All right. In the teens, the payers started using predictive models. If you saw there's lawsuits with it's Aetna first and Cigna second around. They were using code pair combinations to automatically deny claims. There was like one article that has 16,000 denials in 1 second, and they're all signed by the same physician. Uh, Essentially, what they did is they built their own machine learning. They gave all the providers a famous CO16 denial, requests more information. Send me the medical records behind this. And all the providers sent in their medical records, and the payers paid their nurses to read the medical records and say which cases is there medical necessity and which cases is there not medical necessity. And they just summarized the data. What code pair combinations of diagnosis code and procedure codes are providers statistically not? They have ways to fine tune this. It is a machine learning loop. They have ways to fine tune it. They have different profiles of what different organizations look like. And so when you are getting a new CPT code getting denied for requests medical records, it is in fact the payer fishing for your underlying errors. One thing everybody should start doing is track the success of those. Track what payer service line and providers are getting denied for request medical record. Which ones come back later as a medical necessity denial? Those are the ones. Track that. And the next thing the payer will start doing is they'll make an edit that says this code pair combination for this provider, for this service line, for this circumstance, maybe it's multiple combinations, deny this NPI whenever you get these combinations for medical necessity. That's the pattern. What you need to do is every time you get a new category, you track how often the payer pays you when you send the medical records. And if it's more than 80%, call your payer rep and say, please stop denying these. You are wasting my time and you are wasting your time. Please stop denying these. If you have medical necessity denials by CPT code that you always when you appeal, you need to be tracking this. Call them and say, please stop. It's wasting your time and it's wasting mine. Since the LLM genesis, the payers have started, when you send a written appeal for a medical necessity and whatnot, they have started to use LLMs to read those texts and give the thumbs up and thumbs down. All the things I said about hallucination, all the things I said about error rates and whatnot, they have the same issues. They have the same limitations. So when they use these systems, they have their own quality issues. And one thing that I can absolutely see in the data, it is absolutely clear every payer There are false positives and false denials. Here's what I mean. When you write an appeal and it is a good appeal, you do have medical necessity, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. A false negative is, I should have won this appeal and they denied it again. That's a false negative. It goes the other way. There are some times that you write an appeal and you should not win. So you shouldn't win this appeal. They pay you anyway because they didn't want to pay someone to read that. Uh, you get paid and you shouldn't. That's a false positive. Here's the bad news. There's more false positives than there are false negatives. The false negatives are particularly painful. It is providers not being paid for the services that were actually medically necessary. They got denied. We spent the hours to write this appeal and we got upheld. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of, and you're not getting paid what you should. It is really painful. You need to do 1,000 things to stop that. The bad news is don't throw those rocks too hard because it goes both ways. They are paying things that they shouldn't be paying. And you need to get some visibility to this so you can change behaviors. They really are not using end-to-end agents all that much because the payers know they're getting these lawsuits. And so it is possible. There are companies, they use vendors like Machinify to build agents. For the vast majority of these are human in the loops. And so they're saving time making these denials so that they can give you more denials. I am not aware of payers that are using fully automated denials. The PXDX lawsuits with Aetna and Cigna are those examples. They aren't agents. It's just programmatic. Okay. I like to go here because it's kind of the call to action for all of you. The payers are ahead of providers on this stuff. They have deeper pockets to make these R&D investments. They have an economy of scale that makes it a higher return on investment for them to do these things. And there's all sorts of things that you guys as providers need to do to make the playing field level. If you are not doing the things that I've been recommending, you need to start doing those things. Just frankly, providers are behind. Okay, I want to end with a story. Any Kraken fan? Any NHL fans? All right. I'm a I love the NHL. I live in Chicago, so Blackhawks are my team. That's a real picture of me behind Connor Bedard. Um, if you if you have read any article about the NHL in the last 3 years, you probably have heard of Connor Bedard. He was the first overall draft pick by the Blackhawks 3 years ago. And he's going to be the next big thing. He is the next Sidney Crosby. He's the next Wayne Gretzky. And I believe that's true. He underperformed in year one. He's got the bubble on his face here because he skated into somebody and took an elbow to the face and broke his jaw. In year one, he missed like he missed 6 or 7 weeks. I did it. He missed a bunch of time because of the broken jaw, and it set him back fewer points. Here's the point I want to make is he has this unbelievable raw talent. It's why he was drafted number 1 overall. It's why people say, oh, he's going to break new records. He's going to be the greatest thing ever. He's not right now. He's like the 50th best goal scorer in the NHL right now in his 3rd year. And is it because he's not good? No. It's because his tools are not finely tuned. His tool is not being used by an expert at using the tool. The Blackhawks are the last place team, second to last place team in the league for 3 years in a row. And the other tools around him are not good tools that work together. It is the handyman who comes in with only the hammer. And Connor Bedard can hammer that nail really well. He does score goals really well, but he doesn't have the full system. So I tell you the story because this is where we are with agents and with AI in general today. We have awesome tools today that we didn't have years ago, and the future is really bright. It is all moving extremely quickly, and so you need to get on board. You're going to be left behind if you don't. I ran out the clock. I'd love to take some questions if I can. I'm holding everyone from lunch. I think you. Uh, we're good? All right. Yeah, questions. I filibustered. Yeah.
Do your tools that you develop, are they extract from the medical record, or is that a manual process that It's still not allowed.
Uh, it is allowed to do. Specifically, my company, Longtail, yes, we do. Uh, in any provider organization, this is actually not hard. You got to do a little bit of logistics. You might have to wait a week. Tell your CISO, your information security officer, or however you got it organized, compliance, CISO, IT. What they need to do is, if you're a Microsoft department, they need to sign a HIPAA BAA with Microsoft. I'm sure everybody has already has that in place. But you need to do a separate particular agreement that says, for your language models, you will not train off of our data. You need to make sure that Gemini or Llama or whatever you're going to use is inside the HIPAA BAA and inside of where they put the walls so they won't train off of your data. If you do that, then, like, if you're using Copilot in your organization, if you do that, then you can copy and paste a medical record, and Microsoft or OpenAI or Meta, they are not training off of your data. You are not leaking PHI out to the rest of the ecosystem. And you can do that when you're setting up your AI governance questionnaire for new vendors. That's the right way to ask the questions. That's what all of your vendors need to be doing. Yeah, it's a great one.
For
Yeah.
clicking that authorization to that, how long does it take to train the bots for I guess doing the prior authorization itself?
Uh, I have built hundreds of bots. Um, oh, you already got one. That very good questions. Yeah. I have built hundreds of bots. It costs something like $2,500 of human labor to build a bot. That's good. Doing an authorization process is far too complex for a bot. Um, what you can do is you can take some of, like, the individual steps. You could make a bot that did I do itemized statements as one of my examples? Like, there's one Kark combination for denials for requested itemizations. So, and it's like really narrow. If you get that Kark, it is that every single time. And you could build a bot for your three biggest payers to go onto the portal, navigate through, and upload that. Like, so my recommendation on, if you're building bots inside the organization, if you have an RPA team or access to a vendor that does that for you, make the scope much smaller. The smaller the scope, the more predictable the outcomes will be. Doing something like, I want to handle 100 different types of clinical denials. You should come talk to me, because that takes millions of dollars of investment to be able to handle all the service types and all of the denial types and all the pairs and all the steps of assembly and all that stuff. So, simpler is cheaper and more predictable outcomes.
Two
What
ques 2 questions.
Yes, yes.
Front end and back end of your process. Um, do you, without mentioning it, you actually go through a lean process, though, as you're doing an observation of your process because you've seen the process by one person that's processed by one person?
Yeah.
So you're looking at it so that you maybe are taking out, tasks that somebody came up with and never used again so that you're not incorporating that front end? And then the last question is,
Yeah.
like with any type of enhancement, AI, software, whatever, do you have in your processes you're going to go back to validate and the optimization of that process that you're not going to have continuous process improvement?
Yeah. These are very good. I'll try to do it justice in this short period of time. Uh, I personally don't do programs where we build lots of bots. And the right way, if you are building lots of bots, this is my past life, you should 100% go do those observations. You should do the clipboard. There are firms that specialize in this. It is the right way. It is still valid to do the what did you used to call it? A PDD, a process definition document. You should continue to do that. You should not be typing it. You should be speaking it and letting you can do it with sticky notes and then take a picture of it and load it into ChatGPT. Like, you should be using the tools to do that stuff. So yes, that is the right way to do to do. I've picked a use case. I'm gonna go build an automation 100%. On the continuous improvement, um, I kind of said this, but like, if you expect to turn on this bot and everything's just gonna go away, it's a bad expectation. Uh, the scope creep with IT projects is usually I wasn't specific enough in what, and so once you start using these types of systems, you realize, oh, there's an exception for transplant patients. There's an exception for this service location. We have something written in this one contract with this one insurance. And so that is some of the iterations. And I would call that part of the continuous improvement. Yeah. Do one more and then otherwise come get me in the hallway after. Oh, I said one more and I just cut everybody off. Yeah. All right.
Okay, so let's just say there's a provider organization that has never used any AI.
Uh
What would be the first thing for the biggest bang that I would suggest?
huh. When we're done, we'll log on and get you an account for ChatGPT. I mean your friend, the person, guy I know. Yeah, okay. Uh, the most accessible, the most adopted. Um, e- if you email me after, a friend of mine does these surveys of provider organizations. Her firm is called Eliciting Insights. And then you just go to the webpage. She published like 3 weeks ago. She had done a survey where she called all sorts of provider organizations. What are your top 5 use cases? And so I'll give you the list of like the most common use cases. The ambient listening stuff is the hottest one today. It's also like so hot because a bridge was going like this, and Epic said, "I'm stealing that." So that one's hot, and the practical implication. It is so natural. I mean, just like you using Copilot, and it's natural. Before I do this email, I'm gonna, or like it becomes natural, and uh the ambient listening is so natural to, I don't want to write all this. I'm going to say all these things and turn on a recording, and it's going to write it for me, and I'm going to take a minute and QA it. It's supernatural. Those types of tasks, like for example, writing appeals is like it writes it for you. My other use case example is the discharge planning summaries and those kinds of things. Those are the really good ones. Uh, I said it a couple times. The big unlock with LLMs is that you can take text and automate text. So there just aren't that many features that have been released yet in all the systems. They're coming and you see them coming like every week. But I would say that you'll get the biggest bang for the buck. A task that I needed, this is why I keep pointing at appeals, is like that's all word, like the policies are words, authorizations, the policy is words, the forms you have to fill out, it's all words. They're not difficult decisions. There might be a lot of them. That's where I would go. You'll get, I keep saying it, but like you'll get highly repetitive outcomes because it's relatively simple. Yeah. If I didn't do it justice, we'll talk more. Yeah. Thanks for the participation. I'll be around for a while. Come get me a lunch and whatnot.